The science says this works. Here's that very first high five I shared on social media. So for those of you just joining us, in chapter 1, I cover the story of the high five habit. And I had been using it myself to send myself into the day with the encouragement and the love and the support that we all need and deserve. And about a couple weeks after doing it myself, I posted this selfie. You can see I've got my bed head. I've just rolled out of bed. I got my glasses on. I've got my retainer in. I don't even tell everybody to post a photo. But what happens next is extraordinary. What happens next is people around the world start posting within an hour photos of themselves, high-fiving themselves. Notice there are no instructions in the photo I just showed you. Just me standing there, thankfully, in more than my underwear. My retainer is still in. My bed head is intact. And I'm giving myself a high five in the mirror. In less than an hour, people around the world started tagging me in photos of themselves high-fiving the mirror. I was stunned. Men, women, children, grandparents, before work, before school, before the day started, people of all ages and backgrounds were taking a moment to celebrate themselves in the mirror. That was just day 1. Little did I know how fast the high five habit would spread, or how it would change so many people's lives by changing how they see themselves. Here are a few of the photos from just the first few days. Look at all these beautiful people, everybody. Isn't that amazing? Men, women, people with their kids doing it alone. Isn't this awesome? People of all ages, backgrounds, religions, shapes, sizes. It's incredible. When you look at the images of people high-fiving themselves, and here, I'm going to give you some images. Look at that, people high-fiving themselves. When you look at the images of people high-fiving themselves, there's an energy and enthusiasm in everybody who tries it. In one of the images, the person that you see, and the person's actually on this page I'm showing you right now. In one of the images, so one of the people that you're looking at right now is in a bathroom at a domestic violence shelter. It is a very powerful reminder that no matter where you are, what you are facing, or how little or much you have, you still have you. A high five is going to cost you nothing. And what it gives you is priceless. A high five in the mirror to yourself gives you a moment of self-validation. The high five is proof that you're still standing, you're still smiling, and that no matter what happens today, you have your own back. Now, standing there on my own, I love seeing all the photos of everybody around the world who started high-fiving themselves, because it made me think, maybe this high five thing isn't so cheesy after all. And then it dawned on me, maybe I'm not the only one who needs a high five every single day. Now, this is big. You may want to take notes. And if you have questions, ask them in the comments. If we have time today, we're going to jump into them. So I did what I always do when I wanted to understand something. I started to dig for answers. Why is a simple high five to yourself so powerful and contagious? And the first stop, it's where I always go. I started to talk to real people who are high-fiving themselves. I reached out to the folks who had tagged me in their high five photos online, folks just like you. And those initial conversations, they confirmed something incredible. And something really cool was happening for all of us. When you give yourself a high five, it's impossible to think something terrible or crappy or negative about yourself. I want you to try it, because it's true. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you raise your hand in celebration, you can't think, God, I look fat. You can't think, I'm a loser. You can't say, I'm a horrible person. You can't say, I hate my stomach. It's impossible. You know, in fact, before I got on this broadcast, my daughter bought me some new foundation. And I guess it's the very glowy foundation that all the kids are wearing right now. And when I saw myself in the camera, I immediately had a negative reaction. I was like, I look ridiculous. I'm like super shiny. But when I go like this, I can't even think about my foundation. It's neurologically impossible for you to criticize your appearance or focus on the things that you don't like, or focus on the things that make you feel insecure, or focus on the things that you want to fix. It's neurologically impossible because for your entire life, this hand motion has always meant something positive. You have never high-fived somebody and said, you suck. You've never high-fived somebody and said, I hate you. You've never high-fived somebody and said, you're going to have a terrible day. So neurologically, when you go to high-five yourself, it is impossible for your brain to do anything but cheer for you. It's the coolest thing in the world because the science is already in your head. We're just aiming it back at your own reflection. How amazing is that? And did I mention this is free? We are unlocking programming and science that's already in your body. How cool is that? And this is because you have, for your entire lifetime, had a positive association with giving someone else a high five. As soon as you raise your hand to high five yourself, your subconscious mind flips into a positive mode and silences the inner critic in your head. Now, here's another thing about this high five habit and starting your day with a high five. It's also impossible to high five yourself while worrying about your to-do list or a work email or something you have to do right now. That's because a high five is a gut check for right now. It snaps you into the present moment. I want you to think about that. There's nothing worse than going to give somebody a high five and you like miss each other's hands and you're like, oops, I missed. And it's kind of like a weird slap, right? What do? Think about it. Put it in the comments. If you go to high five somebody and you kind of miss each other's hands, what do you immediately do? You're like, oh, we got to do that over. We got to do that over. Of course, right? Why? Well, the reason why is to have a great high five, you've got to concentrate on the action and the intention. You got to be fully present. The same thing happens when you give one to yourself. And I want to stop there for a minute. This has been a very profound moment in every single podcast. I want to break apart something about the way you start your day. How you start your day is everything. The mood in first thing in the morning, where your thoughts are, where your focus is, the first couple habits that you have. So many of you have a morning routine, right? Put in the comments, what is part of your morning routine to set yourself up for a great day? You probably are writing that you meditate or you pray or you journal or you exercise or you set an intention for how you're going to show up today. Yes, those are all incredible things. But do you actually take a moment where you get present with the human being in the mirror? Or when you're standing in front of the mirror, is that time spent picking yourself apart? Or what I'm finding to be even more common is, do you ignore yourself? If you're somebody who can't even look at yourself in the mirror, and I've talked to some incredibly successful people like Ed Mylett. I don't know if any of you all know the best-selling author, super successful businessman, Ed Mylett, followed by millions of people. When we talked about the high five habit on his podcast and show, he admitted that he doesn't look at himself in the mirror. A guy that's that successful. If this is you, if you're disgusted by yourself or you can't look at yourself in the mirror, it's hard for you because you've criticized yourself for so long. I want you to know you're not alone. And the high five habit is so important because you can't actually do it if you're not present with yourself. And so in one action, we are pulling together dozens and dozens and dozens of research studies. We are pulling together all kinds of physiology and neurology and psychology research, and we're aiming it back at you to send you into your day with a boost of dopamine, with a surge from your nervous system. We're going to get into the science. We're in chapter 2 if you're just joining us. I'm Mel Robbins. I'm reading from my best-selling #1 self-help book in the world right now. It's actually #1 in Canada on Amazon. We are in the top 30 books of all of Amazon. We are the #1 audiobook in self-help, the #2 audiobook, period, in the world right now. This is all in the last 6 days because the high five habit is spreading like wildfire because it is full of simple tools and the research that prove how learning how to support, see, encourage, love, have compassion for, and be kind to yourself is actually the secret to everything. It's the secret to motivation. It's the secret to confidence. It's the secret to inspiration. It's the secret for those of you on LinkedIn to getting ahead at work and to being a service-based leader, to being more impactful. It's a secret to everything. And right now, if you really are honest about your morning routine, it includes a really ugly habit where you stand in front of the mirror in your bathroom at the sink and you pick yourself apart or you ignore yourself. Simply forcing yourself to start your day with a high five breaks that habit, because the high five will silence the critic and it forces you to be present with yourself. It forces you to look at yourself with compassion, with encouragement, and that is a life-changing thing. This is big. You may want to take notes. So I did what I always, I already read that part. Okay, where am I? Oh, I'm down here. I'm already on page 19 for those of you who are reading along. I know a lot of you love to get your books out and read along. And for those of you that keep saying that the independent bookstores in your neighborhood are sold out of the book, don't worry, we're restocking. You can find it online. Keep supporting the book. I appreciate it because I'm here reading it for free, because there are a lot of people right now that are really hurting that can't afford a copy of the book, or they're somewhere in the world where they cannot find a copy to buy. Thank you for all of your support. And I'm going to be here every day as long as social media is up, reading this to you cover to cover. Now, the other thing that the high five does is that the habit of worrying that normally hijacks you when you start brushing your teeth, like when you start thinking, how am I going to finish that presentation in time? Or get my mom to her doctor's appointment. That spiral where you also, as you're brushing your teeth, immediately put your attention on everything that you need to do for everybody else, instead of using that moment as a moment of intentional reflection about you. The second that you go to raise your hand, you silence that mental death spiral. And the focus on you and what matters to you begins, because a high five says, I see you, I'm with you, let's do this. There's a cool game to play today. I know life is hard. I'm still going to be here supporting you. That's why this is so powerful. The high five, it's not a gesture, it's self-validation. So I don't care if you're standing in your bathroom in your boxer shorts or a ratty robe, your exercise gear, or your birthday suit. When your hand raises to the mirror, you're going to feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Plus, as soon as your hand hits that mirror, your mood isn't the only thing that's shifted. Your perspective gets a shift too. It makes you think about what bigger game you want to play today. And right now, you know what you do as you stand in front of the mirror? You march through your to-do list, which is why you're tanking mentally. You start to focus on everyone and everything else. When you practice the high five habit and send your day into your day with a high five, you think about what you want to do for yourself. How do you want to show up today? What do you want to be? And what is the one personal project that you need to make progress on for yourself? You know, this moment of intentional reflection is more powerful than you think. Recent research from Harvard Business School has found that taking a moment to reflect on your work improves job and performance. It helps you be more effective, and it makes you feel more motivated. It impacts everything from your confidence in achieving your goals to making you more productive, all from a simple moment of reflection every single morning in the mirror. Now, as the months passed and I posted more and more about making the high five every morning a habit, it began to rapidly spread around the world. In fact, if you're watching this and you can see highfivechallenge.com, we've got almost 100,000 people from 91 countries joining in a free 5-day challenge. It's hosted by an app for free called Growth Day. If you go to highfivechallenge.com, get in there, because I am coaching you every day. We're giving you journaling tools and science-backed journaling prompts. Everybody in there is high-fiving each other and cheering each other on and sharing their insights as they're breaking through the self-doubt and the stuckness and the low energy that we all feel after the last 18 months. And they're learning the simple things to take control of their life. We've got kids in it, senior citizens in it. It doesn't matter what language you speak. You should be in it because you deserve support. And this is something I promise you need right now. Where am I? As the months passed and I posted more about making the high five a habit, it began to rapidly spread around the world. Every day I heard from people about the impact it was having and how they were teaching it to their coworkers, their kids, their friends, and families. Companies took notice and began to ask me if I would speak to their teams about it. Over the past year, I was the most booked keynote speaker for virtual events, because I speak about change and resilience and simple science-backed tools that real people can use to face the ups and downs of life and work. I presented the research and tools in this book to nearly 500,000 people in corporate speaking events around the world, to businesses in every single vertical, everybody. And I'm absolutely certain that this simple habit and the mindset tools in this book will change your life because it changes you. And research backs it up. The motivational power of a high five has been well documented. In fact, wait until you hear what researchers discovered about high fives when studying the best way to motivate kids in the face of challenging tasks. In one study, school-age kids were split into 3 groups and asked to complete difficult tasks. Then the researchers gave them one of 3 different forms of encouragement. The kids were either praised for a trait, and that's like when you're like, hey, you're so smart, you're so talented. That was one group. Or the second group, the kids were told that they were working really hard and they were praised for their effort. You're really dedicated. Or the third group of kids that were working on this challenging task, they were simply given a high five. And the high five in this documented academic research study was hands down the best motivator. Here's why. The kids who were working on a challenging problem, who were told that they were smart, talented, or skilled, were actually the least motivated, and they had the least amount of fun. The kids who were praised for their effort showed greater enjoyment and exhibited a higher level of persistence. But it was the kids who got the simple high five that blew the researchers' minds. The kids who got the high five felt the most positive about themselves and their efforts. And check this out. They kept going for the longest. Persistence, people, despite making mistakes. In fact, the results were so clear that the researchers titled this academic study, High Fives Motivate, when they published it in the academic journal Frontiers in Psychology. Researchers concluded that giving a high five to somebody is what they called a shared celebration. Holding up your hand with a big smile on your face are 2 instantly recognizable signs of genuine pride and encouragement. A high five means you are celebrating with the other person. You are passing your energy to them. That is so different from offering just, hey, good job, keep going. When you get a high five, you feel seen and affirmed as a person. It's true, isn't it? Like, let's practice this right now. I'm gonna high five you. You ready? So as you're watching me on whatever platform you're watching me on, here we go. I'm going to look at you and I'm going to smile because I believe in you. And I know things are challenging right now, but I want you to know that I have your back. And so I'm giving you a high five right there, a high five to you. And I bet you felt affirmed. You felt seen. You felt a little shift in energy, didn't you? That's the science here. You see, your brain recognizes this. I'm celebrating you. I am. That's why I'm raising my hand. Your brain's like, oh, here comes a high five. Drip of dopamine, little jolt of energy. You felt it right then, didn't you? You can actually manufacture that for yourself in your own body. That's why this is so cool. And, here's the other thing. When you get a high five, you feel seen and affirmed, not for your skills, not for your effort, not for your grades. You are being praised and recognized for just being you. I don't even know where you are in the world right now. I don't know what you're wearing, what you're doing, what you're facing. And here, when I do this to you, you feel that I see you. I love this. I see my fiance and I high five each other now each morning in the bathroom. We high fives ourselves, and it really does boost our mood. That's incredible. That's incredible. My mood has been great this week because of the high five on day 4 of the high five challenge and it's unbelievable. I'm starting to think about all the things I've accomplished in my life that I don't give myself credit for. I love, love, love that y'all are trying this, that you're enjoying it, that you're buying a copy of this book for your friends. This is fantastic. Repeating mantras and statements like I love you can be powerful. So this goes to your question, do I need to say anything when I high five myself? We're going to get into this. I'm recommending no. I'm recommending that you do the high five and you don't say anything for 5 days, that you look at yourself and you just be with yourself and you high five yourself and send yourself into the day. Okay. That's what I'm recommending. Then you can start to put little notes of affirmation on your mirror. You can start to add in um, a mantra that you want to work on with the high five, but let's just do it in silence first so you can feel the power and the science of this thing, okay? Repeating mantras and statements like I love myself can be powerful, but research proves that unless you believe the mantra you're saying, your mind actually rejects the mantra you're saying. So in chapter 7, we dig way into this, and you're going to learn how to create what's called meaningful mantras. Those are positive statements that your mind can embrace. This is also why a high five is so amazing. Your mind won't reject it because it's always associated the high five with believing in the person that you're giving it to. Plus, a high five isn't passive, it's not verbal. When you give yourself a high five, you are actually demonstrating to your own brain, hey, I'm the kind of person that cheers for me. I'm the kind of person that believes in myself. I'm the kind of person that's nice to myself. It's a physical act of joining in with yourself and acknowledging yourself and trusting yourself. As Bridget found when she started practicing this habit each day, this is what Bridget said. It's one thing to say positive things to yourself in your mind. It's a whole nother thing to act the feeling out. It gives it more meaning. How many of you have felt that? That it's one thing to try to stand in front of the mirror and be like, okay, I love myself, and it doesn't really hit. But when you act out the behavior of self-love, it's a totally different feeling, everybody. It gives it more meaning. It bolsters the action, and it helps you truly believe in yourself and your worth. Actions speak louder than words. I think we're going to stop there because actually we'll read one more thing, and then we're going to end. Do we have time, or do I need to bolt? Okay, one more thing. We're on page 22 for those of you following along in chapter 2. It's all about the science, okay? This is one of the people that, I've done almost 53 podcast interviews, everybody. And one of the studies that people ask me about the most is this study with NBA teams here in the United States and the power of a high five to create a winning team. And so pay attention to this, okay? If you manage a team, if you want to impact your family, pay attention to the research around high fives and winning teams in the NBA. A high five also helps you build trust in yourself and your ability to win in life. At University of California, Berkeley researchers studied NBA players' habits of success. At the beginning of a season, they recorded how often players gave each other high fives and other signs of encouragement, like fist bumps. Using the number of high fives during a game at the beginning of the season, the researchers then predicted which teams would have the best records at the end of the season. You want to know something? The best NBA teams, those who made it to the championships, were the ones who gave the most high fives at the start of the season. Why are high fives such good predictors of a positive outcome? Well, it comes down to trust. The teams who high fived one another in the preseason were constantly lifting each other up. The physical touch says, I got your back. Let's go. We got this. It helps you shake off a bad play or a missed shot. It lifts your mood. It communicates confidence. And it reminds you that no matter where we're at in this game, we can still win because a high five is always optimistic, right? The team that high fives one another believes in each other and their ability as a team to win. They played like they trusted each other. The unspoken power they shared helped them become unstoppable. Now, here's the interesting part. The worst teams in the NBA barely touched. They had terrible body languages, no high fives, no fist bumps, no pats on the back, nada. And it showed. They constantly made selfish, inefficient plays, and their records reflected it. Even if a team has good players, that's not enough to win. When you are high-fived through every moment of practice, through the whole season, and right to winning a championship, what it does is it creates a feeling and a culture of celebration and encouragement. It makes you give it your all selflessly. That's the feeling you need. And you can create that partnership with yourself practicing the high five habit. Because when you stand in your bathroom every single morning and you look yourself in the eye, because there's another human being in there with you. There's a human being in the mirror. Stop calling it a reflection. That is a human being staring back at you. That is your partner in life. The two of you are a team. I think the human being in the mirror represents your soul and your spirit and your humanity and your hopes and your dreams. And you need to wake up and start to cheer for that person. I want you, just like the best, winningest championship NBA teams do, I want you to send yourself into the game of life every day, creating partnership with the human being in the mirror, knowing that no matter what happens today, you've got your own back. You believe that you are strong enough to face it. You believe you're playing a game in this life of yours that's worth winning. You believe that you can, through encouragement, through support, and through celebration, face whatever happens and still win. All right, so page 37. Why not high five everyone else, Mel? I mean, why isn't the high five habit about high fiving everybody else in life? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Well, first of all, you already high five everybody else. You spend too much of your time seeing everything and everybody else and absorbing what they want, what they need, what they expect. See, this is why you're last on the list. This is also why you carefully manage your appearance, your facial expressions, your reactions. You're so concerned about meeting the external gaze of everyone around you. You think your self-worth and your self-esteem are reflected back by how other people perceive you. In fact, in one of the later chapters, we're going to get into people-pleasing and insecurity and how to catch yourself when you, how many of you struggle with people-pleasing? And how many of you wish you felt more secure? That's right. We are going to help you. The high five habit is going to help you tremendously. Very normal to struggle with people pleasing, very normal to feel insecure, but the high five habit is going to help you build up the security inside yourself. And it's going to help you learn how to like, support, and love yourself. Because when you like, support, and love yourself, it's not going to matter whether or not other people like, support, or love you, because their like or hate, or their love or hate, their like or dislike, their support or lack of support won't change the fact that you like, love, and support yourself. It starts with you. If they like you, or if they think you're smart, worthy, or good enough, then you feel smart, worthy, or good enough. How many of you feel like you only feel worthy if somebody else thinks you're worthy? That you only like yourself if you get the approval of somebody else? That you're waiting for somebody else to love you before you're going to love yourself? See, this is a huge mistake, and you're going to learn how to address this mistake in the high five habit, because we're going to teach you how to locate your self-worth, your self-love, your self-esteem back inside yourself. See, you're looking in the wrong mirror, everybody, when you look for your worth in other people's approval. You see, 1 million likes on social media doesn't mean shit if you don't like yourself. I need you to flip the focus from looking outside of you for external validation and proof of your worth. I want you to stop looking at the number of likes and follows and views and praise and what you're getting paid and the car that you drive and the number that you weigh on the scale. And I want you to learn how to give that validation to yourself just because you're alive and you're standing here ready to live another day. So here's another question. I'm really surprised by how emotional the high five made me. When I high five myself in the mirror, I got emotional. I see a lot of you saying, me too. How many of you got emotional when you started high fiving yourself? Maybe not even on day 1, but day 2 or day 3, or maybe you've been doing the high five habit for a couple of weeks and you're like, why am I crying? Why does this swell up so much? Well, first of all, we're on page 38 for those of you following along. It is really, really normal to get emotional when you practice the high five habit. In fact, many people who try it are surprised by the emotions that come up. And you might relate to what they had to say. Alyssa said, I high fived myself in the mirror yesterday. I didn't think anything would happen, but I started crying out of nowhere. It's like my soul had been waiting on that high five and that recognition forever. Boy, I needed that. Or Wendy shared that after starting to do the high five habit, beginning her day by high fiving herself in the mirror, taking a moment of intentional reflection, she initially felt exhausted. Did anybody else feel exhausted by the high five? It's such a simple movement, but you feel emotionally gassed. Well, that night she found herself in bed early and overcome with emotion. But by the next morning, she woke up energized and suddenly able to do a bunch of tasks that she had been putting off. And she said, I think that starting my day with an intentional moment where I stare at the woman in the mirror and I give her support and celebration and I send her into her day, I think I released a lot of blocks by doing this. Anybody else relate to that? That you feel like things are releasing, that you're shedding a lot of emotional weight, that something's opening up inside of you by practicing the high five habit. And she said, if this happens to you, I want you to know this is normal. Sometimes the emotional release may make you feel sometimes the emotional release rather may be really positive. Michael said, I did the high five in the mirror and it felt amazing. I actually made myself blush. How many of you kind of cracked a smile or blushed or kind of laughed? It's kind of a weird feeling. That's the dopamine, by the way, releasing in your brain, because your brain doesn't know the difference between you high-fiving somebody else or getting a high five from somebody else or you high-fiving yourself. That's one of the reasons why this is so cool, because you're tapping into science and programming that's already conditioned into your body and using it to boost your mood, to clear away blocks, to build confidence, to feel more aligned with yourself, to build trust and partnership. It's like the coolest thing in the world. Jeanette told me that she can't help but jump in the air after her high five. Look, whatever your reaction is, positive, negative, emotional, whatever, just allow yourself to feel it, because we're trying to break the habit of rejection. We're trying to break the habit of you staring in the mirror and focusing on what you need to fix. Or for more than 50% of you, we're trying to break the habit of you rejecting yourself by not looking at yourself at all. But by practicing the high five habit, you learn how to stand with yourself and be with yourself. So another question in chapter 3, because we're handling FAQs in chapter 3. Why does the high five habit work if it's so simple? Well, the genius and the power of the habit is precisely because it's so simple. It would be easy to think that this is the stupidest thing you've ever heard, but therein lies the secret to the high five habit and everything you learn about in this book, all the tools. If it's simple, you'll do it. And I've also found in my work and research that if the tool is kind of cheesy at first glance, and let's face it, the 5-second rule, counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, sounds kind of simple and dumb when you first hear it. High-fiving yourself in the mirror sounds kind of simple and dumb when you first hear it. High-fiving your heart, something we talked about in yesterday's live stream. In fact, you saw me use the tool high-fiving your heart to overcome a moment where I felt that wave of anxiety and overwhelm. And I used the high five to the heart, which sounds simple and kind of stupid when you first hear it. If it's simple, you can use it, especially if you're overwhelmed. And if it's kind of silly or stupid, you tend to remember it. And that's the genius of this, everybody, because tools only work when you use them. How many of you have read incredible books about tools that you can use or habits that you can change, but you've never actually implemented the change into your life because it was too complicated, or you couldn't remember what to do, or there were so many damn steps that, my God, you got just so much to do anyway that how could you possibly implement this? Tools only work. Yeah, you can read about them, but they only work when you start to use them. And so the genius of the high five habit is it is so simple. It takes less than 5 seconds. You can sneak it in between brushing your teeth and walking out of the bathroom. And if you're forgetting to do it, remember, take a little Post-it note like this one. High five, baby. Look at that. Isn't that cute? High five. This comes from my friend Kate. Hi, Kate, if you're watching over at Akamai. I stick a little Post-it on your mirror, and the Post-it with a little note or a handprint or trace your hand or write, I believe in you, something, I love you. That's a environmental trigger, little piece of science that will trigger your mind. Oh yeah, I got to high five myself before I leave. And then take your moment and do the simple high five. And remember, you don't have to say anything. The gesture alone is what triggers the chemical release in your brain and triggers your nervous system to lighten up and to give you some energy. And it also triggers your mind to start to see that you treat yourself with respect and you treat yourself like you're worthy. It's the gesture alone of the high five thanks to a lifetime of neural association and programming that's already in your mind, body, and spirit, that explains why this so simple thing actually has profound impact on you. Our research shows that to build a new habit, it needs to be easy to add to your routine. And come on, how easy is it to put down your toothbrush and then high five yourself in the mirror? Super simple. And since it's easy and it feels really good, by doing the high five habit every day, you're going to prove to yourself that you can stick to a new behavior or a challenge. And that's what's also going to start to build some confidence. You're going to see yourself taking new actions that have a positive impact in your life. And over time, as you repeat this simple habit, it starts to have an even deeper impact in who you are and how you relate to yourself. Another question I got, this is chapter 3, everybody. We are now on page 39 of the book. I'm reading this for free. My New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Amazon, USA Today, #1 bestseller, #1 audiobook in the world right now in terms of the book sales. And we're in chapter 3, and I'm reading this for free because I want to make sure that if you can't afford a book right now, you still can benefit from the tools and science in this extraordinary discovery that I made called the high five habit. And we are in chapter 3 on page 39. And the other question I got a lot is, all right, Mel, why should I trust you? You don't have to. That's it. You don't have to trust me. Trusting me is a choice. I'm actually trying to teach you how to trust yourself. I don't want you to look at me for answers. I want you to turn back toward your own reflection in the mirror and dig deep inside yourself for the answers to the biggest questions in your life. I can give you tools to help you listen to yourself, but ultimately the truth that you need is inside of you. And that's really important because, I think it's amazing that we're here together. And I love sharing everything that I've learned that has helped me through really tough times and has also helped me become very successful and productive and happier and healthier as a person. But at the end of the day, it's your life and you've got to live with the consequences of your decisions. So everything that I'm teaching you in the high five habit is removing layers and layers of crap that is built up inside your mind that's made you doubt yourself and feel insecure and be rattled with guilt and feel tons of anxiety. And we are clearing away all those blocks so you can start to recreate a true partnership with yourself and learn how to believe in yourself again, because that's how you will ultimately change your life. Here's another question on page 39. Hey, Mel, I've got real problems. How can the high five habit, seriously, girl, help me during tough times? Now, as you heard in chapter 2, remember Jen? She was high-fiving herself through her 5th round of chemo, and she shared in chapter 2 how she's so good about supporting everybody else and worrying about everybody else, but she has a real problem asking for help. How many of you, do you have trouble asking for help? This is so common. And at the heart of having trouble asking for help and support is you've been trained to take care of other people and not put yourself first. You've been told that you're selfish or you're a bitch or you're this or you're that if you put yourself first. And B, if you struggle with self-worth, deep down, this is really sad, you don't believe that you're worthy of it, or you assume nobody's going to help you anyway. And so you've created this habit of not asking for help or not understanding even what your needs are. One of the things that my husband has recently discovered in his own therapy as he is facing really long-term depression is that for so long, he has suppressed his needs and has felt like they didn't matter, that he's not even sure what his needs are. And I think that's true for a lot of us, that we're not quite sure what our needs are or how to support ourselves. And again, the high five habit is a book that foundationally teaches you to reconnect with yourself and to learn how to not only be more aware of what you need, but to, in your heart and soul, know that you are deserving of what you want and need. And it's so cool when you start to have that breakthrough. I just love reading all your comments. And so, as Jen said, as she's going through her 5th round of chemo, high-fiving herself doesn't cure her cancer. So let me say that again. The high five habit will not cure her cancer. But what it does, High-fiving herself in the mirror is it helps Jen feel encouraged, supported, and celebrated in her strength and in her resolve and her optimism as she fights the cancer. And the same goes for any difficulty you're facing. You need to high-five yourself through it. Lauren wrote, Mel, I'm a single mom, and in the past year, I lost one of my very closest friends to suicide. That's happened in my life too many times, too. Losing people to despair, addiction, depression, mental illness. That's what suicide is. It's a disease of hopelessness. And, as I was walking away from a relationship that was not good for me, I struggled with feelings of sadness, feelings of being unsuccessful and not enough. And every time I see a mirror, I now give myself a high five. I do it to remind myself that I am alive and worthy to get out there and grab my dreams, mostly to inspire my daughters to live their lives happily with authenticity, to know that they are enough no matter what life throws at them. Or maybe you're dealing with a difficulty at work. It's not cancer. It's not losing somebody you love. It's not going through a massive breakup. Maybe work right now is really, really difficult for you. Kendra said, my company hasn't been netting sales, but I still high-fived myself daily to stay encouraged. And Brene wrote, I finished a project today I've been working on and struggling through for a month. As I looked at my final product, I was amazed and proud of my work. I handed the project over to my head with my head held high and a smile on my face. Now, the feedback I got on my work, it's okay. It's a start. Now, typically, I would spend the rest of this day bashing myself, doubting myself, overthinking, shutting down. Not this time. Something in me forced me to go to the mirror, high-five myself, and now I am rewarding my hard work with some me time today. That's right. It's hard to get feedback, especially when you've put a lot of work in. And part of the art of learning how to grow is being able to put all your hard work into something and then either get feedback that's like, oh, I still have a lot to do, or to fail at something you've put all this hard work in, and know that you can still high-five yourself through that feedback or through that failure to double down and know that, hey, I'm proud of the effort that I put in. And now I know that with this feedback or what I learned during the failure, I can apply it to what I'm working on and I can actually do even better. That's how high-fiving yourself through something changes your life. For those of you just joining us, I'm Mel Robbins. I'm reading from my instant bestseller, New York Times bestseller, #2 selling book on Amazon, on all of Amazon last week, the #1 selling audiobook in the world last week. And today, it's called The High Five Habit. You've made it an instant bestseller. And because I want the tools in this book that are so transformational and life-changing and simple and grounded in science to be accessible to everybody, I'm reading it cover to cover for free. So today we're on chapter 3. We're on page 40. For those of you who would like to follow along, we're on page 40. And please tag friends that can't afford the book. Please share this on your social media pages so we can teach the world the high five habit. If you can't afford a book, please get yourself a copy of this. And if you have teams, or if you have colleagues or friends that could use the high five habit, and could use the science of knowing how to believe in yourself again, how to tap into that positive life force inside of you and that confidence inside of you to go take control of your life, send them a high five by buying them a copy. I promise you, it will be one of the greatest gifts you could ever give somebody, because you are giving them the gift of believing in themselves again. Like those kids who do the high five in the research study, chapter 2 is all research, everybody. In the face of failure and challenge, that encouragement and partnership with yourself is exactly what you need. The high five reminds you that you can face whatever it is that you're going through. And it reminds you that you do have the resilience, the stamina, and the strength and the courage to meet this moment in your life and to come out on the other side. The high five also acknowledges how hard you're working. Just like a teammate would support you in the biggest play of your life, you can support yourself with a daily high five that says, you know what? It's hard, but you can handle this. You know what? These problems blow, but I still got your back. You know what? We got a lot to do today. and I'm going to be here supporting you. You know what? I don't deserve what's happening right now, but I can face it. That's what the high five habit does when you're dealing with problems right now. You high five your way through it. Well, Mel, what if I don't feel like doing it? Do it anyway. Do it anyway. Part of the reason why you don't have what you want in your life is because when you don't feel like doing something, you don't do it. Your life only gets easier when you do the hard things all the time. So push through your resignation, push through your weirdness, and practice the high five habit every morning after you brush your teeth. If you're sitting there on the fence about buying this book, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, buy the book. You need this. Every human being needs this. This is the book the world needs right now. And if you don't believe me, go read the reviews. They are jaw-dropping and profound. And they are from real people around the world, just like you, who literally have devoured the book the day they got it because it was so life-changing. So please get yourself a copy. Your life only gets easier when you do the things that you are resisting. Read what Paula had to say after she started doing the high five, because her realization, honestly, it's common and it's heartbreaking. And I think it's why people don't feel like high-fiving themselves. And that's why I wanted to share Paula's testimonial with you. Mel, it's hard for me to cheer for myself because I resent anyone with the audacity to love themselves. It sounds crazy, but it's like, will I even be likable if I like myself? I mean, aren't women who tout their achievements bitches? I hate women who constantly tout themselves, but they're also the very people I admire. The founders, the workouters, the travelers. I don't feel capable, not because my dreams are outlandish, but because I feel like there are so many people who deserve it more, mostly because they'll cheer hard for themselves. So it's much easier to applaud the people who are ahead of me than it is to cheer for myself. It's easier to stay in the shadows than it is to go for gold and fall flat. It would be just more proof that I'm not good enough. And I have enough evidence of that. Wow. When you read this quote, you can feel Paula's pain. How many of you can relate to Paula? That, you know, if you go for your dreams and you fall flat on your face, it's just going to be proof that you're not good enough. And you already have too much evidence of that. You know, you can feel Paula's desire. She wants to be seen. She wants to be celebrated. She wants to feel worthy. If holding yourself back is a habit, it's time to break it and learn how to start cheering yourself forward. Right now, Paula's dreams are haunting her. And I'm sure your dreams are haunting you too. Paula longs to live a high five life. She wants to go for the gold. Now, when you read this, you can see how your own thoughts can keep you stuck in a very low place. And when you cannot give what you desire to yourself, you absolutely will resent those who can. And the high five habit is the first step to clearing that block away and changing this, giving yourself permission to have what you actually desire. In fact, in the later chapters of the book, particularly, I believe it's like chapter 9, we're going to talk about jealousy. We're going to talk about how these feelings of insecurity and unworthiness block you from allowing yourself to even want the things that you deserve in life. And that by high-fiving yourself through these feelings, you can start to reprogram your mind and treat yourself in a way so that you know that you deserve to be happy. You know that you are worthy of these things. You know that when you fail or fall on your face, it's not evidence that you're not good enough. It's actually evidence that you're trying. And that's going to make you more confident. Question, isn't a high five only for when there's something to celebrate? How many of you feel like, well, wait, do I high five myself when I do something? Sure, but I actually think you get a high five just for breathing. See, encouraging yourself every step of the way is the secret formula for winning in life. One of the most rewarding parts of running or walking a road race is that people line up and cheer for you every step of the way. Learning how to do that for yourself, whether you cross the finish line or not, will build your confidence faster than any medal or accomplishment ever could. You know, it's interesting. I had this insight when the high five habit was named to the New York Times bestseller list. My first reaction was I was thrilled. My second reaction is I actually started crying because I was number two and not number one. And that's a very common reaction based on science, because when you're number two, you immediately feel like you were this close to being number one. And so your brain focuses on that sort of perceived gap. Research shows that if you're number three, you're just as happy as number one, believe it or not, because you're not thinking, oh, I could have been one. You're like, oh, thank God, this is amazing. I'm here. And then I literally woke up the next morning super proud and excited again. And here's a big insight that I had. I've always dreamt of being a New York Times bestselling author, and achieving that goal did not feel like I thought it would feel. In fact, it proved something. Achieving your goals and dreams won't make you happy. Working on them will. It's the journey, everybody. It's the pursuit. It's having a cool game to play. It's being up to something that makes you feel like your life has meaning. And so, that doesn't diminish the fact that I absolutely earned my spot on the New York Times list. That doesn't take away from that at all. But it was a huge reminder that so much about your happiness and a sense of meaning and purpose is anchored in whether or not you are playing a fun game in life right now. Are you up to something that makes you want to get out of bed? Do you have a goal that you're working on that pulls you out of your comfort zone? That is the secret to meaning and to purpose, is to simply setting goals and going for it. Whether you succeed or fail is beside the point. It's the pursuit of it and high-fiving yourself through it that makes you feel empowered and fulfilled. Well, what if I feel like a failure right now? This is a big question. This is on the bottom of page 41. Well, if your self-esteem is in the gutter, then you abso-freaking-lutely need to high-five yourself. You need it right now, and you deserve it. And you've always needed it, by the way. Starting from the very first moment, your life has been a trial by fire. You answer a question wrong and everybody laughs. You speak your mind at the dinner table and you get sent to your room. You try out for the football team and you get cut. You think someone is your friend and they ditch you. You apply for a promotion and get passed over. You trust somebody and they hurt you. You run for office and you lose. You fall in love and you get your heart broken. You start a business and it goes bankrupt. You achieve a dream and then you start to feel lost again. I can relate to all of those, can't you? We perceive these as failures, but they're not. They're just life. These are lessons. Like steel, your confidence, resilience, and wisdom, they are forged in fire. Your life is always teaching you something if you're willing to look at it that way. So why not reward yourself not only when you win, but also when you fail spectacularly? I mean, until recently, I had this whole thing reversed. I used to be the kind of person who held out the reward until I achieved the goal. And I was hard on myself every step of the way. I realize now how much harder I was making it on myself to both be happy, to feel fulfilled, to enjoy my life as I was up to a big game. What I've learned is that failures almost always lead to something amazing down the road. In fact, there's a whole chapter about this mindset. This is preparing me for something amazing that hasn't happened yet. I can't wait for you to read that chapter. The high five habit will help you pick yourself back up when it feels like life is knocking you down. And you need to, because you have the strength within you, and you're going to need it to knock right back when the time is right. Okay, page 42. Mel, I'm ready to start the high five habit. What's the best way to begin and to remember to do it? Excellent question. First of all, get a copy of the book, The High Five Habit. Read it cover to cover. Come back to it, highlight it, underline it. You need to understand it, because then you're going to use the high five habit in the mirror, the high five to the heart, and all the tools in this book to change your life every day. But I've also got something called the High Five Challenge. What is the High Five Challenge? It's simple. It's free. It's 5 days. And you're going to, for 5 days, start your day by high-fiving yourself in the mirror. That's it. And here's the coolest part. You don't take this challenge alone. You and I are going to do the challenge together with 121,000 other people from 90 countries. That's how many people have signed up for and completed the High Five Challenge. 121,000. 1,000 people from 90 countries, and their results are extraordinary. If you've taken the High Five Challenge or you're currently in the High Five Challenge, will you tell everybody what you're getting out of the High Five Challenge? Every day, you literally watch a video training for me, you journal, you then share what you're learning after you journal in the comments, you upload a selfie, you cheer for other people. It's extraordinary. And it's going on at high5challenge.com. That's high, the number 5, challenge.com. For 5 days, you're going to be part of a global online community of people who are all taking the High Five Challenge together. Every morning, you get an email with a link to a video pep talk that's going to teach you something, inspire you, go deeper into the research in this book and the changes that you're going to experience. You'll also be able to track your progress and connect with and cheer for other people. And even cooler, those same people are going to cheer for you back. Look, here are some of the people. How cool is that? You know, it's so awesome when you know that you're not alone. And in just a second, we're going to be done with chapter 3, and I'm going to take a few questions, okay? So while you may be alone in your bathroom, high-fiving yourself, when you join us at high5challenge.com, you won't feel alone because you're not going to be alone. There's 121,000 other people in there with you. And the best part, it's free. There are no strings attached. When the challenge is done, you will still be able to log into the challenge. You don't have to buy anything if you don't want to. You do not have to do anything. You can take the challenge, be done with Mel Robbins thereafter, but the High Five Challenge for 5 days straight is yours for free, thanks to me and my friends at a company called Growth Day, which is offering it up on a platform so we don't have to be in a Facebook group. Isn't that awesome? Research tells us that it's a whole lot easier to change when you feel support and encouragement from other people. The fact is, you are not alone. People around the world are waking up every day and doing this challenge with you. So take a minute, go to high5challenge.com and get registered for free. After just 5 days, you'll be surprised by how different you feel. Fran said, I must say it hits different every time I high five myself. I can feel something heal a little more. I believe a little more. This is day 5 of high-fiving myself and being transformed by the renewal of my mind. Now that's a movement. My friends and family started doing it as well, and now I see that I can make a profound difference in the world. 5 days. Give me 5 lousy days, everybody. It's high5challenge.com. I realize that's backwards on Instagram and out of focus on every other platform, but we're trying. Finally, Mel, can the high five habit create lasting change? Yes. And the high five in the mirror is just the beginning. In the remainder of this book, you're going to learn a dozen more ways to give yourself the encouragement and support you need. And as you practice using these tools to flip yourself from a place of being stuck into a state of taking action, you'll experience even cooler things related to confidence, happiness, and fulfillment. Your relationship with yourself is the foundation for everything in your life. How you talk to and treat yourself sets the tone for everything you do. It determines how you feel, what you think, and what actions you take. If you look in the mirror and don't see a person worth celebrating, you need to change that. The bottom line is you have a lifetime of positive association with a high five because you've been doing it for strangers, friends, and teammates your entire life. The neural association is in your brain. The programming, everybody, is already there. We're just teaching you to tap into it to change your life by making it a habit to look yourself in the mirror and high five yourself every single day. It will change the patterns that are stored in your subconscious, the patterns that are relate to you, the patterns associated with your mindset and your outlook and your motivation and your optimism and your confidence. And that will improve your mood. It will help you achieve your goals. And fundamentally, the high five habit and the tools in this book will shift the trajectory of your entire life because it shifts everything about how you relate to, see, and treat yourself. That's the secret. I'm going to teach you today, as I read and freestyle from the High Five Habit, about how you can interrupt negative thoughts and flip into a positive mindset. And why would you want to do that? Well, the reason why you want to do that is because your thoughts lead you in a particular direction. And if you start to allow your mind to dwell on negative outcomes, if you start to obsess that things are not going to work out, if you allow yourself to continue to think negative thoughts, you're not only priming your mind to default to negative, but you will literally, through your thoughts, trigger negative actions. You know, if you think about it, you've had experiences in your life, right, where you've really trashed yourself. You've hated on yourself. And when you continually think that you hate yourself, or you continually tell yourself that you're screwing up, you tend to do things that you hate, don't you? But when you're in a positive mindset, when you're in an optimistic mindset, when you interrupt those negative thoughts and you start to say, well, maybe it is going to work out, or, you know, I got to just keep on going. Your thoughts literally can trigger positive action too. And so that's what we're going to talk about today as we read the High Five Habit. Welcome to the live stream. Also, we are going to take your questions. So for those of you that want to read along, page 59, we're going to read 4 pages of the book today, finish chapter 4, and I'm also going to teach you the one trick all confident people use to stay positive. Here we go. So to understand the profound power of accepting and encouraging yourself, which is a way to have a positive mindset, to have a mindset that defaults on being encouraging. Let's look at some research on what psychologists call your core fundamental emotional needs. So let me ask everybody, do you know what your core emotional needs are? There are 3 of them. I want you to go in the comments. What do you think your 3 core emotional needs are as a human being? These are the core emotional needs that every human being needs in order to feel safe, in order to feel connected to themselves, in order to feel loved. What are those core needs, everybody? I'd like you to just write them in the comments, okay? Yep, one's safety, one's love. These are great. What else? What are your needs? Your core emotional needs. I see longing. I see love. These are excellent, excellent responses, everybody. Human connection, love, acceptance. Yep. Trust, honesty. What are your core? There they are. I see Felicia's nailed it. To be seen, to be heard, and to be, she says validated, but it can be validated, accepted, or celebrated for the unique individual that you are. So to be seen, to be heard, and to be celebrated and accepted for the unique individual that you are and the unique contribution that you have. When you feel seen, when you feel heard, and when you feel celebrated or accepted for the contribution that you make as an individual, unique individual, you feel safe, you feel like you belong, and at your core, you feel loved. When you don't feel seen, you feel invisible in life. When you don't feel heard, you're going to feel misunderstood. And when you don't feel like you are accepted or validated, you feel completely rejected and disconnected. You feel like you are unworthy or unloved. And so again, we're going to talk about your need to be seen, to be heard, and to be accepted and celebrated. You need this at work. You need this at home. You need this in your relationships, your friendships, your romantic relationships, your family. And, you know, if you just reflect in your life, where do you feel seen, heard, and celebrated? Where in your life do you feel that way? Or is there a person in your life that makes you feel that way? Hopefully, you are saying that you make yourself feel seen, heard, and celebrated. But is there somebody else in your life that makes you feel that way? It could be a caregiver. It could be somebody that you're in a romantic relationship with. It could be a mentor. It could be a friend. It could be your pet, right? I think one of the reasons why we all love our cats and our dogs so much is because there's such unconditional love. You walk in the door, they come running right at you. And so you feel seen and you feel celebrated, right? And when they're right there with you, or, have you ever noticed how when you get really upset and you start crying, what do your animals do? Oh my God, they hear you and they come right on over. And those responses that are so innate when it comes to your pets, everybody, they're fulfilling your emotional needs. That's why you feel so safe and connected and loved by your pets, because you feel seen by them, you feel heard by them, and you feel celebrated and loved by them. And I do see people saying, I feel that way about my daughter, my mom, a mentor of mine. These core values, when they're missing from your life, of being seen, heard, celebrated, and accepted, this is what leads you to feeling stuck and disconnected and unfulfilled. And the good news is, when you realize that these core fundamental needs truly dictate how you feel and experience your life, now you've got the access point to be able to change how you're experiencing your life by focusing on your core fundamental needs and making sure that they are met. All right. You need these 3 fundamental emotional needs in order to thrive. They talk about this in Psychology 101. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And here's the background. You have basic needs that are fundamental to your fulfillment, your happiness, and your survival. You need water, food, oxygen, shelter, and sleep, right? Because if you don't have water or food or oxygen or shelter, or you get enough sleep, guess what? You die. That's how fundamental these core needs are. You also know that you need friendship, or else you're going to feel lonely. And research shows that people die from loneliness too. It's a huge killer. You may also know that you have a fundamental need to grow, because if you're not growing and learning as a person, you start to feel stuck in your life. But what you may not know is that you do have these core fundamental emotional needs to be seen, to be heard, to be loved for the unique individual that you are. And when these emotional needs are not met, it's not only a form of neglect, but you will feel unloved, invisible, and unfulfilled. And see, I believe that's how we all got so critical of ourselves in the first place. And it's why we're twisting ourselves in knots ever since. That at some point in your childhood, those core fundamental needs stop being fulfilled. You started feeling invisible. You started feeling disconnected. You started feeling like you didn't belong. And as we talked about in yesterday's video, this is all covered in chapter 4 of the High Five Habit, that you then turned that feeling against yourself, and you started to go, well, there must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. It was that your 3 fundamental emotional needs were not being fulfilled by the adults around you. That's all that was wrong. So you can change this, by the way, for yourself, because what's missing, if you're not fulfilled in life, is a deeper connection to yourself. Because you've probably been so busy running from one thing to the next that you can't even grasp right now how big of a shift it's going to create when you start each morning by simply seeing, hearing, and honoring yourself. And one of the reasons why I love all the research around adding a simple high five in the mirror to your morning routine is that it fulfills your deepest emotional needs as a human being. This one action of just high-fiving yourself in the mirror, add it to your morning routine. How many of you have added a high five to your morning routine and you're stunned by how much it's changing the way that you see yourself, the way that you treat yourself? Because as you've learned, these 3 emotional needs were probably never met during your childhood, and you haven't been given the tools until right now to be thinking about this and to start fulfilling these emotional needs as an adult. And, the reason why you feel invisible at work, or you feel outside of your friend group, or you feel disconnected in your relationships as an adult, not to mention the relationship you have with yourself, is because there's something missing. And what's missing is a deeper sense that you actually matter. What's missing is the sense that you are being seen and heard and appreciated. This is critical. It's so critical. If you were to wake up and you had a feeling of being connected to yourself, and you felt seen in your life, and you felt appreciated in your life, and you felt heard in your life, that would absolutely change how you go through life. That's why this is such powerful stuff, as simple as it is. And I love seeing so many of you writing in the comments about how you are adding in the high five, and how it's changing your life, and how you're starting to take your emotional needs seriously, and you're starting to make it a priority to fulfill them, and how it's changing everything. Now look, don't bother arguing with me because I did the math. I think sometimes in life, you forget just how miraculous you are. You know, you get so beaten down by the day to day, and you're so sort of beaten up by what you've survived in your past, that you've lost sight of how extraordinary you are. And so I'm going to remind you of how extraordinary you are. And I brought some math to prove it. So I just want you to wrap your brain around this really cool fact. The odds of you being born are 1 in a million. We're just going to start there, okay? We're going to do some simple math and we're going to build. The odds of you being born are for sure 1 in a million, because your mom carries over 1 million eggs in her body during her lifetime. Isn't that wild? You're 1 in a million. But guess what? That's not even close to the mathematical phenomenon that you are. 1 in a million doesn't even touch the surface of how extraordinarily unique and amazing you are. Because based on recent research, scientists have also figured out that the egg that formed you was really choosy. And that egg could determine which of your father's 250 million sperm cells it wanted to connect with. That's right. This was not a race with the sperm. The egg was very, very choosy. And if that egg that created you chose any other sperm, guess what? You wouldn't be watching this live stream. Your sibling would, because you never would have been born. So just wrap your mind around those odds. 1 in a million plus 1 in 250 million? What are the odds of that? Well, the experts crunched the numbers on that, and the odds of you being the result and being born and being here with me right now, 1 in 400 trillion. 1 in 400 trillion. Now, guess what? I'm not even done yet. 1 in 400 trillion doesn't even scratch the surface in terms of what a miracle you are. Are you ready? A scientist from Harvard heard me cite that number, 1 in 400 trillion, in my TEDx talk. And he wrote a research paper to say, Mel Robbins, you are wrong. You are such a miracle. The odds of you being born is such a miracle. And the number is so insane. I don't even know how to say the number. Literally, no idea how to say the number. It's like 1 times 10,000 with that little sort of factor at the top with another million. Like, it's bananas. I can't even explain to you what a miracle that you are. And all of this math, it proves something really important. And that is that someone as unique and special as you deserves to be seen and heard. Feeling like you matter, that somebody cares about you, that you are worth celebrating, it is one of your most important and fundamental needs. And I'm here to tell you that because the math proves that you are a walking miracle, there will never be another you. There never has been another you. There will never be another you that will ever walk this earth. You are the one and only, which means you have something extraordinarily unique to give to the world. And feeling celebrated and feeling seen and feeling heard It is so tied into your existence because of how unique you are. That's why you long to be recognized as an individual. That's why you long to be celebrated as an individual. This need, it's so important and foundational to you and the fact that your birth and existence is a miracle, that it's as important to your well-being to be seen and heard and appreciated as food and water. The difference between a good day and a bad day, you know what it comes down to typically, is just being acknowledged by somebody. And you know who's the best person to acknowledge and validate you? You are. And that brings me back to that moment every single morning when you come face to face with yourself in the mirror. High-fiving yourself is so much more than a physical act. It's foundational. It's a transfer of energy. It symbolizes an alliance and a belief in yourself and your ability. You aren't congratulating yourself. You're celebrating yourself as you are. And you just heard the math. Your existence is what makes you worthy of a high five. Your presence, your hopes, your dreams, your capacity to love, your ability to heal, to change, to grow, your heart, your soul. That's what makes you worthy of being seen and heard and appreciated. Not once in a while, but every single day. That's what you deserve. That's what you need. And the miracle of your existence is why you need it. See, when you are able to see yourself, when you are able to celebrate yourself, when you are able to treat yourself in a way that you have been wishing your parents would have, or wishing your friends or your spouse or your boss would, when you take control, this is what you communicate. It's incredible. You're basically, when you're able to hear yourself and see yourself and support yourself, and I believe that simply adding a high five in the mirror to yourself as part of your morning routine, every single day, you start the day by fulfilling those foundational needs that the miracle of your birth demands of you. Number one, you're communicating confidence. You're saying, I believe in you when you do that. Number two, you're celebrating yourself. You're basically like, you're amazing. You got this. You're validating yourself. You're saying, I see you. I'm not going to ignore you or pick you apart. You communicate optimism. I can do this. I can face this day. And I love adding a high five to your morning routine because it is an action. You're demonstrating belief in self. You're demonstrating acceptance of self. And you are sending yourself into the day to take action. Wouldn't it be incredible to feel all those feelings at once? I know it would. It would be mind-blowing. Literally, it could possibly blow up your subconscious because your brain, based on your life experience, is programmed the opposite. It's not been programmed to absorb all this yummy, gooey, amazing validation. But guess what? Your brain loves it. Absolutely loves it. See, I believe you were wired for love. I believe that you came into this world whole and complete and loving and seeing and accepting yourself and being deeply connected to yourself. And that's why you miss feeling that way. And it's also why this change of adding a high five to your morning routine is almost instantaneous. This is why the programming that we're activating in your mind, body, and spirit, when you start to acknowledge and accept yourself and treat yourself with kindness, and when you start to flip the way that you think, and you start to cheer for yourself and believe in yourself, this is your default. You are going back to who you are when you practice the tools that I'm teaching you. It is your true nature to love yourself. It is your true nature to believe in yourself. It is your true nature to feel deeply connected to yourself and a sense of purpose. That's why you miss it. You can only miss what you know. And so I want you to come back home to who you are. That's what I want you to do. Now, okay, I get it. But Mel, how do I think different thoughts? And this is what I promised to teach you. The trick that all confident people use to stay positive. The trick that you can use to think different thoughts. Well, the first step to thinking different thoughts is you have to catch the old thought that takes you low, okay? And if you don't know what the thought is that takes you low, here's a hint. It's some version of I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not successful enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not lucky enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. There's something wrong with me. It's some version of that. And if you know what the thought is that always brings you down, could you please write it in the comments? Because you will inspire somebody else. You will make somebody else realize they're not alone. Okay? What is the thought that always takes you down? Mine is some version of, it never works out for me. People are mad at me. I'm not a good person. Nothing I ever do is gonna matter. Like, it's just some just horrible version of that. Okay. So first step number 1, what is the thought that always takes you down? I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not loved enough. I'll never be this. Like, I see this. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not now, never will be. I'm never going to grow up. I'm never going to get it right. I always screw things up. I'm not thin enough. I'm not smart enough. Other people do it better than me. I'm too big. Anyway, keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep writing this down because you're giving other people permission to take a look. I'll never make enough money. I'll never be a good father. I'll never be a good wife. Nobody loves me. Nobody has ever loved me. All of this horse shit that you tell yourself. This has become the default wiring. Step number 1 is identify what thought takes you down. Okay. It's like dropping a guillotine on your power and on your future and on your possibility. It cuts you off from who you truly are and what you truly want and desire and deserve in your life. And whenever you think this thought, I'll never be loved, I'll never meet somebody's standards, I'll never make the money, you literally also stop yourself from taking the actions that change your life. So great job. You've already done step 1. Identify the thought that takes you down. Because here's the cool thing. That's not how you came into this world. You didn't come into this world thinking, I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. I never do anything right. I'll never amount to anything. I never should have been born. You didn't come into the world thinking that. Somebody taught you to think that. And so if you can figure out what that negative thought is, right? Pick your poison. I'm not smart enough, good enough, tall enough, skinny enough, rich, whatever it is. I call it poison. You want to know why? I call it poison because thinking this negative thought is like drinking poison. It kills your spirit and your innate desire to be seen, to be heard, and to be celebrated. You are dropping the guillotine right on yourself when you think this poisonous thought. Okay? Now, what is step 2? Step 2 is, yes, you have to identify it, but it's not enough to just identify it. Step 2 is we need to replace it. Okay? We need to replace it. And so I'm going to teach you what you're going to do next. The next time you think that negative, I'm not enough thought, you're going to break the thought by saying, I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that. And then number 3, we have got to replace the thought. So you're going to catch the thought, you're going to break the thought, and then we're going to replace the thought. That's what you need to do to get this poison out of your mind and start thinking thoughts that align with your fundamental needs. And what are your fundamental needs? It's what we've been talking about today. It's to be seen, it's to be heard, it's to be celebrated. And one of the things that I love about cultivating a high 5 attitude is the high 5 attitude is an attitude that aligns with believing in yourself, seeing yourself, and appreciating, celebrating, and encouraging yourself to continue to move forward. That's what you're doing. And so one of the things that you can do, I know this is going to sound crazy, is by adding a high 5 to your morning routine, it helps you rewire your mind in a very powerful way. And the reason why it will help you rewire your mind in a very powerful way is if your default right now is I'm not enough, when you add this to your morning routine, your brain sees you treating yourself in the exact opposite way of that negative poisonous thought. Because you don't high five somebody that you think isn't enough or that sucks or that you hate. You only high five people that you believe in, that you think are enough, and that you're rooting for. And so add a high five to your morning routine, because that is part of the positive forward programming of plowing new neural pathways in your mind. Again, let me repeat the trick all confident people use to stay positive. You got to catch that negative poisonous thought. You got to break it. I'm not thinking about that. Talk back to it. And then you must replace it. You have to learn how to replace it and program a positive mind, because your brain's circuitry is designed to just repeat the patterns that are there. So simply identifying and trying to break the pattern won't work. We got to replace it and program new neural pathways in. This is why all of you who are high-fiving yourself, whether you're taking the High Five Challenge, go to highfivechallenge.com. It's a free 5-day program that I lead you through. You can do it with 150,000 other people from 90 different countries, or whether you've read the book or watched our videos or listened to these live streams. For those of you that are adding the high five to your morning routine, what are you noticing about the way it's changing your mind? What are you noticing about how those negative poisonous thoughts are starting to be replaced by more positive programming? That's what this book is about, everybody. Write it in the comments. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to some questions. That is the end of chapter 4. Oh, wait, I've got one more paragraph and then I'll do it to questions. The reason why you want to catch the thought, break the thought, replace the thought is because we want to teach you how to let validation, confidence, celebration, optimism, and action, a high five attitude. We want to teach you how to make that the new default. That whenever you feel yourself going mentally low because of poisonous thoughts, that the thought alone, those poisonous thoughts, they paralyze your ability to move forward. So whenever you think that thought, I want you to learn how to catch it. Because whenever you have that poisonous thought, you don't want to high five anybody, right? You don't want to high five yourself. You don't want to do anything. You don't feel like doing anything. It kills your inspiration and motivation. So we want to catch it. We want to break that thought and we want to replace it. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.